All right, back with another mock draft. What we're doing with this one is what I think will happen. And listen, this will be a very bad what I think will happen mock draft. Why will it be a very bad what I think will happen mock draft? Well, because some of these what I think will happen mock drafts, literally you have like Peter Schrager like talking to NFL GMs and like figuring things out that way. I can't do that. So all I can do is give what I just given how I know these teams tend to operate, what I think would be the most likely outcome. Of course, there will be a change at pick like 7 that completely changes everything, and it is what it is. But it could still be a fun exercise and could lead to some interesting discussion, which is always what I'm trying to do here. At the end of the day, just create some interesting discussions. So I think Caleb Williams goes 1. That's a lock for me. I still think Drake May is going 2. I know there's some talk about Daniels. I think that they're going to go after Drake May. It's very rare for a team to 99% of people say this is the guy you should draft, go a different direction. It happens. The Trayvon Walker thing happened. It does happen, but it's very rare and almost never happens for quarterbacks. Again, the Baker Mayfield thing happened. Most people thought Sam Darnold should have been the guy. These things happen, though. I also, for the Patriots, so I'm not going to do trades in this because that's difficult to predict. Maybe I'll do one of these with trades later, but for now, if no one trades, this is what I think would happen. I think they would go with Daniels. I think that Marvin Harrison is such a good prospect, but I just think that they're going to view it more so as, well, he can't throw to himself. Quarterback is more important. The Chargers, I think, rush to the podium to get Marvin Harrison, and then I think the Chargers, Joe Alt is interesting. I think they go Malik Neighbors. They need a receiver so badly, and hey, getting a good receiver, that's very valuable. So I don't think they'd be too upset about it. And I kind of think there's a run on receivers. I think the Giants know they need a receiver. Romeo Odunze is such a good prospect. I do think that he is the next guy on the board. I do. Next up is interesting at number 7. I think that there's several different ways the Titans could go, but they need offensive line. Joe Alt's on the board. I think that they just go with Joe Alt. Number 8 is interesting as well because, for Atlanta, they could definitely use some defensive line. I kind of do think they go Dallas Turner. I really do. I think they end up going with the guy that, just a good quality edge rusher who, they need an edge rusher. To me, he'd be a bit of a reach at this spot. I think there's better players, but I kind of think that this is where they end up with. The Bears are super fascinating here, as I don't know exactly what you would do in this spot, because I think Brock Bowers or quarterback would be the next kind of spots you would look at. But at the same time, I don't think that they want to go out and get obviously they don't want a quarterback. I don't know if they want a tight end either at this spot. I think they would like a receiver, but I think this is too early for Brian Thomas Jr. So I think they probably just go defense here. And again, I guess, but where do you go? I think Byron Murphy's really good, but a lot of people aren't as high on him. They're in a really unique position at this spot. I think I'm going to have him go with what some people will consider a reach. I don't think it's a reach. Byron Murphy, I'll have him go at 9. I don't feel great about that one. That feels like a bit of a weird spot, so I could be wrong. For the Jets, I think they go offensive line. And I think they go with Talise Fuaga, who is the next highest guy on my board personally. I also think that he's someone who, I think most people are higher on Fashanu because he can play tackle. I think the fact that Fuaga looks like he could be a guard or tackle is a pro, not a con for the Jets, who, again, could use versatility. This is one I think a lot of mocks should have, as it makes sense. I then do think that if there isn't a lot of trades, we're going to see a run on quarterbacks. I think J.J. McCarthy goes here, and I do think that Bo Nix goes right after. I think that's what's going to happen. And I don't know if there is going to be a trade up. Maybe, someone will trade up just to make sure they get their guy. I don't know. The Raiders are interesting. I have had them go quarterback in the past with Michael Penix, who is, I think, really good. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to get a player. And quite frankly, if Brock Bowers is on the board at this point, I think you're just going Brock Bowers. I think that's pretty simple. So, sure, Raiders fans would be thrilled with that. As so far, if making each pick doing what I think will happen, they end up with Brock Bowers, I think that they would have a good time with that. You then have the Saints, who are in another interesting situation. As again, quarterback is listed as a need, so shots fired at Derek Carr, I suppose. They could go tackle. I think I guess I'll go tackle. Fashanu, that works. I don't really have an issue with that. The Colts are next on the list. You still have a corner in Terrion Arnold, who's 11 on the consensus big board. I'm just going to have him be selected there. Then at 16 for the Seattle Seahawks, another team where it's like, what exactly do they do here? I guess Jared Verse, edge rushers tend to go pretty high. They could use an edge rusher. That feels like the correct pick for me there. You then have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are another team, several ways they could go, but I think Quinyon Mitchell feels like a good selection here. Corner is a need for them. He is a good corner. I don't think corner is as big of a need as people make it out to be, but they could use a corner for sure. So I think he goes there. And then for the poor Cincinnati Bengals, who maybe would have liked to have that corner, now they're in a bit of a unique scenario. Well, where do they go here? I think they're going to address offensive line. I think they're going to go Troy Fautanu. Oh man, these names are tough. It always takes me a couple years to get names down, so I'm doing what I can. Leyu Latu got that name down, I think. Goes to the Rams, which I think that's, I've seen it get mocked a few times. It makes sense. He's a really good player and would help them out a lot. Then you have the Steelers, who, again, you could go Zerhan Newton, who Jerzon Newton. I feel like I say it wrong every time I try to pronounce it, but Newton is someone who I really like as a player, but I don't know if the NFL agrees with me on that. So as of right now, I kind of think they're just going to go with the sexy pick and get Brian Thomas Jr. Like, they could use a receiver, go out and get him. Makes sense to me. You then have the Dolphins, who again might do let's just try and get a offensive lineman, J.C. Latham, on the board here. That feels like a good marriage there. That feels like it fits for me personally. So let's do that. And then the Eagles, which they just go Byron or did I select Byron Murphy? I'm trying to remember. I think I got him at 9. Yeah, so they can't do that. Again, they could go with Newton if they wanted to, but they don't need an interior defensive lineman. It would just be funny for them to get another defensive lineman. I think Cooper DeJean just add to the secondary, which looked old last year. Let's just be honest, it looked old last year. Let's go with that. Then the Vikings, who I had selecting J.J. McCarthy with pick 11. Again, there's so much needs on this team. I think they should just draft whoever they think is the best player available. What do I think they'll do? I don't know. I think that I think they'll just go after like an offensive. I'll give him Nate Wiggins. I think Nate Wiggins is a really good corner. I think they could use a corner. Let's go there. Next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys, who are a team that's another one that's kind of like, man, they have a lot of positions of weakness, it feels like right now. They could go corner. They could go with, I think what they do is they did Jackson Powers Johnson feels like the move. Maybe the Steelers would have, taken him if he was still there, but I like Brian Thomas there. I'm going to give them Jackson Powers Johnson, which brings up the Packers, which I'm going to give them Kool-Aid McKinstry, which as a Tampa Bay fan, I'd be disappointed about. I really like McKinstry as a player, and but I think that makes sense for the Packers, who are kind of weirdly. A lot of what they could use is also what Tampa Bay could use. I do wonder if Tampa Bay considers a trade up there. But for Tampa Bay at this spot, several needs. Edge rusher is a need, but I don't know if there's a great edge rusher still on the board. I think that, corner is a need, but I don't know if they'll feel like there's a great corner that's still on the board at this point. So I do wonder if what they're going to do in this scenario is say, well, center is also a need. Graham Barton is on the board. Let's just get an interior offensive lineman, which they could really use. That's a big weakness for them. So that's what I have them going. Then you have Arizona, who again drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., so they're good there. I think what they should do is just draft best player available. I think that's what they do. I think they end up with let's give them Newton here, which that would be a great draft for them. I'm a big fan of Newton and Marvin Harrison Jr. as well, which everyone's a fan of Marvin Harrison Jr., so that would be a very good draft, I think. Then the Buffalo Bills, who again, they have some needs. I think they want to go wide receiver. I do, and I think Adonai Mitchell's probably the guy. I think that's what happens. The Lions are a super interesting team. What do the Lions do? I honestly don't know, because there's so many different avenues they could take. Right? Do they go with a guy like Chop Robinson? Yeah, I think they go with Chop Robinson. I think that's what the move is. They could, again, PFF isn't as crazy about him, but the consensus big board has him as a first rounder. I have him as more than a first rounder. I think he's better, as in like I have him not just like as a fringe first rounder, but a little better than that. I think he's very good. position of need, all that good stuff. Then you have the Ravens, which kind of, again, couple ways they could go with. Do they go offensive line? Do they go with a receiver? Let's give him a receiver. Why don't we? Let's give him Lad McConkey. I think that, again, him with Zay Flowers, it's a similar skill set, but I kind of think that's a good thing a little bit. I like that combination. The 49ers, I think they're going offensive line. I just do. Which offensive lineman is it going to be? Is it going to be Tyler Guyton? Well, he's next up on the consensus big board, I believe, so I'll give him there. And then finally, the Chiefs, who everyone keeps mocking them wide receiver. I do think they want wide receiver. They also could use a corner to, although they don't. They're okay there, actually. I wouldn't rush out and get a corner. They have depth there. I think their biggest needs are wide receiver and then tackle. Not a great wide receiver at this point. Amarius Mims is a good tackle. That is what I think that would happen. And again, this would absolutely not happen. These 32 picks, I won an award, incredible stuff by me there. But the 32 picks here, just to be clear, if you're just listening along, a little thing flashed on my screen that said you won an award. That's why I made that joke. But obviously these 32 picks won't happen. I just went with what I think would happen at each select pick. And, again, we'll see how it works. But I do think something like this could happen. If it does, it'll be interesting to see, how it works out. So, yeah, those are kind of my thoughts here. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.